All right, you guys grab a seat. All right, before I jump into the questions, I do want to give you a thank you because all of my friends, where's my Macon delegation at back there, Jessica? I know there, three of you, thank you for applauding, for getting a shout out. You guys have both worked in a bipartisan manner to help us get our first national park in Georgia, so I just want to thank you. The Chamber's been very supportive of that. Everybody in this room wants to see that happen, so thank you. I want to jump into this. It's interesting. We were backstage. You guys are such good friends. You started having a conversation, and I want to talk about that. I want to talk about the Farm Bill. We're an ag state. You guys both have more farmland in your districts than anybody else in Georgia. We care about that Farm Bill. You guys have passed a continuing resolution, I guess, to keep us going for right now. Can you both give us, both of y'all, your insights on where your parties are, what we need to do, what can we expect, and when can we expect a Farm Bill? So, Congressman Dean, I'll start with you.
Thank you very much. I am delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to share the stage with my good friend Austin Scott. Our districts are right next to one another. We represent the same kind of districts. We have agriculture, we have military, we have universities in common. So we have a lot in common, and when it comes to the Farm Bill, it's regional. And we will have Democrats and Republicans' perspective on the Farm Bill, basically based upon the regions where they come. If you have productive production agriculture, then there will be a keen interest, and we'll have a lot in common. And of course, the real dig comes at the higher levels when it gets to politics. I suspect that all people who come from farm country and all Americans really should have an interest in the Farm Bill because agriculture affects every single person in America every single day.
Right.
If you eat, it affects you. And of course, the Farm Bill is a 5-year blueprint, if you will, a plan for our farm services and our rural development. And it expired last September,
Right.
Which means that we had to, as you say, pass a continuing resolution. But farm producers are very, very stressed because of inflation, input costs,
Right.
and natural disasters, the economy, tariffs. Many things have been affected, but they're pressed and they're stressed, and the Farm Bill gives them the safety net, and it gives them the tools to be able to survive. America has always been able to produce the highest quality, the safest, the most abundant, the most affordable food and fiber anywhere in the industrialized world, and we produce more than we can consume, and so we export much of the rest of it. But farmers are not able to do that because many of them are stressed because of the current economy, and they're anxiously awaiting the assistance that comes from the package of supports in the Farm Bill. So, not having done it by September 30th, it is now time for them to be planning the next season. They can't get loans because they couldn't pay the bills from last year. So their margin is either negative or is right at the very, very even mark.
Right.
And so many are about to go out of business, and so it's a real press. It's a hardcore press for us to get that done. It affects the lenders, and ultimately it's going to affect everybody in America
Right.
who has to be consumers.
So, also, where do you see us is moving the needle
Yeah,
here?
so, look, I think this issue is kind of symbolic of the dysfunction in Washington right now and the inability to get a piece of legislation signed into law that the vast majority of Americans need. And so I represent about 30 counties, as does Congressman Bishop, Sanford, my friend. And if you work at a car dealership or at a restaurant or any industry in rural America, even if you don't work on the farm, your job is contingent upon what happens in the ag economy. And so it's the number one economic driver in our state, especially in the rural communities. It is the key to the tax that you fund our school systems, our cities, our counties. Without agriculture, rural America doesn't exist. And so it's been very frustrating for both of us. My gut is knowing how the calendar shakes out and that we have 12 legislative days between now and the presidential election,
Wow.
that my gut is that we will have some type of extension. And I think the only thing that will be signed into law between now and the election will be a continuing resolution that will deal with actually keeping the government open through the election. And then when we come back in November, depending on how the election shakes out, maybe we're able to get the bill passed. But I'm very worried about rural America and our economy, and I'm worried that Americans aren't paying attention to how important it is to have a homegrown food supply.
Right.
And if you think back out to the panic of COVID when people couldn't get toilet paper, and we went a few days with having to problems at the grocery stores. Imagine if the farmers aren't able to plant the crops because they can't get the loans and they don't have the safety net in place. And it is a safety net. This idea that crop insurance or ARC and PLC guarantee a profit, that's nonsense. It's just put out by a bunch of people that are benefiting from not telling the truth.
Well, and then on top of that, we've got the heavy rain season that we just had, and now you've got the hurricane. I know Tyler and his team are down in South Georgia right now trying to figure out how to help them. So it's going to put even more pressure on you guys as you go back. So the hope is then punt the ball in September and then get it done when you come back in that lame duck session.
I'd sure love to get it done in the lame duck. I would love to get it done in the
So would I. But as we were talking backstage, we're afraid that it may not get done in the lame duck and it may be punted to next year. In which case, all of rural America, particularly where there's production agriculture, will suffer greatly. And that will be the bankers, the producers themselves, the people who supply the producers, the farmers. I have tractor dealers calling me, fertilizer dealers calling me, bankers calling me. They are all concerned because of their customers. They're telling me, we're not going to have any customers because the farmers are stressed.
Right. All right, I could talk about this farm bill all day,
Sure.
but I want to hit some other things too. So another issue, though, I mean, both of your economies, ag-based, defense-based, but also heavily influenced by small businesses.
Sure.
In 2017, we passed the huge tax reform bill. Those tax reforms expire next year. And the way Georgia's small businesses, many of them are incorporated, they benefit uniquely maybe than any other state out there from those credits, as well as the R&D credits and some other pieces. I know we've talked to you guys, we've been lobbying with partners. Where are we and what does that look like? Because we're looking at a shaky economy with small businesses being hit square in the mouth and seeing taxes go up next year if we don't get that done. So I'm curious.
Yeah, on both sides of the aisle, people have listened to our small business folks who've come and who've talked with us, and of course we hear it every day when we come home, and we recognize that the tax bill is going to expire, but there are some essential ingredients in that that are very, very helpful to our small businesses. And knowing that, Democrats and Republicans in the House got together and compromised and came up with a bill that many of you were supportive of, and we passed it in the House overwhelmingly and sent it to the Senate. It got to the Senate, and that was a signal from outside that we don't want you to pass this bill because it'll make the administration look good. And so that bill was then put on the table and is on hold, which means that all of the small businesses in America who would have benefited and would not have had to worry about the predictability and the stability in terms of their planning are now at risk. So in this instance, it's another instance of people putting politics over the people and over the good of the nation. And I feel very strongly, and I think Austin would probably agree, that just as we passed it in the House, it should have been passed in the Senate for the good of our small businesses all across the country and our businesses.
So
Yeah, so
what do we do?
Two key provisions that expire at the end of 25, the Schedule S rate, which is probably the biggest of the deals, and then the other issue being the federal estate tax and the rollback of of the exemptions there. But it's not possible to have an economy where Schedule S rates are almost twice what C Corp rates are.
Right.
So there's some discussion of, where does the equilibrium come in? If Republicans maintain the House and the Senate and the White House, then I think what you see today in the tax code is pretty much what you get. If you have any type of change, then I would hope that no rate for a business would exceed 25%. It's no secret to anybody here. There's some discussion that maybe there's some give on the C Corp rate to maintain the S Corp rate, but the S Corp and the C Corp rates, they've got to be together. You can't have one taxed at 40% and one taxed at 20.
So you guys passed, you did your part, right? Senate stopped it this week. So are we then waiting for the Senate to act, or do you have to start over in January if this doesn't happen?
I think it would be a start over.
Have to start over.
And what we passed, while it was substantial, the tax bill, and it passed in very much a bipartisan manner.
Yeah.
It was negotiated by Democrats and Republicans. And again, the frustration of Washington right now is not being able to get things done. But it did not address all of the things that will have to be addressed before the end of 25.
Right. Okay. I'm not as optimistic as I was coming up here, but we're going to keep it going. So the other thing I want to spend a minute to talk about are the military bases and the defense industry, which both of you guys have two bases in your district.
3.
You got 3. Oh, I forget. Excuse me. You got 3. So we're looking right now, the war in Ukraine, the Middle East, Israel, North Korea, the China-Taiwan issue. On top of that, our members are being attacked by foreign powers on cyber attacks every single day. So I'm curious, what does the future look like for missions at the bases that we have in Georgia? And then what do we need to know about what's going on behind the scenes to be better supportive of those sectors?
Well, I think we're very well positioned in the state. Austin is on Armed Services. I'm not sure if there's another member on Armed Services. I'm on Military Construction Veterans Affairs Subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee. So we're in a position to really support the installations in our state, and we've got a large number of them in our state. Austin, of course, has a couple. I have Fort Moore, which is formerly Fort Benning. I've got the Worldwide Logistics Headquarters of the Marine Corps logistics base in Albany, and of course we've got Robbins in Middle Georgia. So it's very important that those bases have all of the resources that they need, facilities-wise, to be able to carry out the missions that they now have and missions that may be anticipated. It's an economic engine for the areas around those bases, many, many jobs and millions of dollars in payroll and investments in those communities, but more importantly for our national defense. And Austin and I both are constantly making sure in our consultations with the support groups. Each of the chambers in the areas has special committees that are focused on those bases, military affairs, and we meet with them regularly. We encourage them, and they do come to Washington, and we arrange meetings for them at the Pentagon to make sure that we can anticipate missions, that we can make sure that in the event that there might be a BRAC, as we had in 95 and 2005, that we are very well positioned for whatever the mission that the Pentagon decides will be appropriate going forward, that our bases will be in a position to fulfill those, be able to adjust that. So we are pro-defense, Georgia's pro-defense, and our General Assembly, the governor, have all been supportive of making Georgia a military-friendly state. I serve on I'm the co-chair of the Congressional Military Family Caucus. I'm in the Depot Caucus and several of the other military-related caucuses, and we try to support our bases. You talk about cybersecurity. The Army's Cyber Command is right here in Augusta over at it used to be Fort Gordon.
Eisenhower.
And that's important. And we support the communities around it, the institutions around it, to make sure that they can support the bases and the missions at those bases, because it makes that community military friendly, and so that's what we do.
So cyberspace and things that were not missions a few years ago are going to become a bigger part of the mission set going forward. That's where the partnership with the state, because of workforce, matters so much, and whether it's our technical colleges or our community colleges or our four-year institutions, making sure that we're teaching the classes that are needed for that workforce is key to us being able to bring those missions to the state of Georgia, because the DoD is not going to bring the mission to Georgia if we can't fulfill the workforce needs of the mission.
Right.
And so our job is to get the mission to the state, and where we got to have the state legislature and the local governments and everybody else is making sure that we've got the workforce to support that mission.
Yeah. For example, with the Marine Corps Logistics Base in Albany, which is logistics. We worked with Albany State University and Albany Technical College to get a curriculum there, so that they could train the people for the missions that are carried out at the base. And we were fortunate with the 2005 BRAC that not only did we keep the Marine Corps Logistics Base there, but they moved the command, the Worldwide Logistics Marine Corps Command, from California to Albany.
Right. And we're about to have a new mission down at Moody as well.
That's right.
We're excited about, and that's a good partnership with Lockheed Martin, one of our Georgia companies, right?
And so again, when we know the A-10 is going to be retired, which has been a workhorse for us, and nobody's excited about it retiring, but we want to make sure that there's another mission coming in, because if you lose the mission, then you don't have
that was another issue on which we were able to work together to try to protect that
I mean, you guys have been that model, and so our focus as a business community and the education community, make sure we've got the workforce in place, infrastructure in place, and as the General Assembly did this year, anything we can do to be more military friendly. So we're running out of time, but I do want to ask you guys one more question here. Austin, you and I had a conversation a few months ago, and you made a great point, and it stuck with me. I've relayed this conversation to several folks, that we need to do a better job as the business community of engaging with our congressional delegation, of letting you know what matters to us, of being there. I think post-COVID, many of us kind of took a step back and maybe have not engaged as much as Washingtons. We've been focused on our businesses and what's happening in Georgia. With the time we've got left, what advice would each of you have for the general business community about how we can help maybe take the temperature down, support what you're doing, the bipartisanship, and Austin, I'll start with you on this one.
Okay. So forgive me if you're a Budweiser distributor, but don't be Bud Light, would be my advice to your businesses. I mean, think twice before you do something that is engaging in the social political discussion that's happening right now. It will do your business more harm than good, and we want your business to be successful. Measure twice, cut once, as my grandfather would say. And so I would encourage you to, all of you that are big businesses, have professionals that, also known as lobbyists. I would encourage you to listen to them before you engage in the cross between the social and the political dialogue, because there's a tremendous amount of anger out there right now with the American citizens. It's not a healthy anger, but it is an anger that has consequences for your business.
Congressman?
Yeah, I would just suggest that you continue to be, or even step up your engagement. I always say that it's the squeaking wheel that gets the grease, it's the crying baby that gets the milk. We want to be your advocates, but we can't do it if we don't know what your issue is. So you got to let us know, and the sooner, better. I've had some major international corporations that had some regulatory issues that if the regulation were passed, it would virtually put them out of business. I
Right.
take a major chunk of their business, and that's been with several of our major corporations. And of course, fortunately, they were able to come, and we were able to work to intercede in their behalf and to block or to slow down or to adjust the regulation as it was being drafted. But if we don't hear from you and you're not engaged with us, it's more difficult. But if you are, we are basically here to help.
Right.
I operate, and Austin operates, what we call government-friendly offices, user-friendly offices. We want to make our offices be help offices for the people that we serve in our districts and in the state.
Well, you set me up well. We have a Washington, D.C. fly-in coming up next month, so register for that. And then our Federal Affairs Committee, which does work closely with both of you, and I appreciate it. Appreciate the fact that you guys are role models for how government should work, how democracy should work, and that's working together, moving beyond political differences. So thank you both for being with us today. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.